It was Notorious B.I.G. who bravely declared that the more money one has, the more problems one is likely to encounter, or words to that effect. Clearly Biggie wasn't much of a gamer, however, because if he was, he'd have known that you can easily blow through a hefty wad by simply popping down to your local game shop and picking up the latest AAA titles. Unfortunately, we at TripleJump aren't world-famous rappers, Ben Potter's awkward Christmas album aside, and we don't have massive wallets to match, so occasionally we have to count those pennies and content ourselves by replaying Spyro for the 40th time. I'll take it. Except these days, we don't have to give up the experience of a nice, shiny new game, as more and more developers release free-to-play titles that are more than worthy of a chunk of our time, and even manage to hold their own among their pricier brethren. Put that credit card down, young viewer, because I'm Peter from TripleJump, and here are 10 brilliant free-to-play video games. Number 10. Star Wars: The Old Republic. Have you been looking for a free-to-play Star Wars game in all the wrong places? Did you get it? Okay, never mind. Then do we have a recommendation for you? At this point, there are more Star Wars video games in the wild than midi-chlorians in Anakin Skywalker's blood sample. Not to be confused with the excellent Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, which I also highly recommend despite it being a few quid on Steam rather than free to play. Star Wars: The Old Republic is a wonderful MMORPG that is free to play up to level 50. Of course, there is an attached subscription service which you need to purchase in order to advance beyond that. Obviously, it's an EA-owned property and they've got to fund those blood orgies somehow, but there's plenty of gameplay to get on with before you have to part with any of your hard-earned cash. Choose from one of two factions, Jedi or Sith, which goes without saying, then embark on missions and explore the galaxy. Players can pick their species, some of which are faction-specific, as well as their class, each with its own origin and ongoing storyline. The game also features a moral choice system based on the player's actions, which has a direct effect on the outcome of the story. So what you do informs whether you're light side or dark side, regardless of your faction alignment. Because why not subvert expectations by being a Sith Lord who volunteers at the local soup kitchen? Number 9. Pokémon Go. I know what you're thinking, dear viewer. A mobile game on my TripleJump? What have things come to? 2020, man. But hear me out, because there's a pretty good reason for Pokémon Go being on this list, and that reason is, well, it just being pretty darn fun, to be honest. Upon its release back in the summer of 2016, Pokémon Go managed to do what scores of health secretaries around the world could not. It got gamers to go outside. For those of you who've been living under a rock these past few years, the premise is very simple. You walk around the actual real world and find Pokémon to catch thanks to the augmented reality shown on your phone. Visiting local landmarks, or Pokestops, will reward you with Pokeballs and other useful items, and the more Poke distance you cover, the more the game Poke rewards you with things like Poke candies and Poke eggs hatching. Alright, I'll stop, sorry. As with many free-to-play games, there is a paid element which does offer some in-game advantages, but the free elements are perfectly good without having to put any actual cash into them. The biggest draw for Pokémon Go, however, is how easy it is to get yourself a whole load of fresh air and exercise without even thinking about it. Just don't play it while you're driving, for the love of God. Number 8. Call of Duty Warzone. Bet you thought we'd put Fortnite on this list, didn't you? Well, you were wrong. And if I have to watch Ben Potter floss around the office one more time, I'm gonna lose my mind. If you're after a freebie Battle Royale title, there are quite a few to choose from. Games like Apex Legends and the, at time of recording, early access title Realm Royale are certainly worth an honourable mention, but we highly recommend Call of Duty Warzone if a bit of last person standing action is your thing. The game gives players two regular game modes, Battle Royale and Plunder, and frequently offers limited time modes such as Blood Money and Warzone Rumble. For its Battle Royale offering, 150 players are parachuted into an arena to fight until a lone combatant or team remains. Nothing too groundbreaking there, admittedly. But wait, there's more, because COD Warzone offers a different experience to its peers, allowing slain players to fight it out one-on-one in the Gulag for the opportunity to return to the main game, as well as introducing an in-game cash mechanic which which gives players the chance to buy things like UAV support, or even buy back their fallen friends. What's also great is the cross-platform support, so there will be no more arguments about whether PC, Xbox, or PlayStation is better, because everyone can die together in a bloody shooty harmony. Number 7. SMITE. Do you have dreams of godlike grandeur but just don't have the bank balance to match? Well, SMITE has you covered, chum. Available to play on PC, PS4, Xbone, and Nintendo Switch, hooray, everyone's included. This free-to-play MOBA, or multiplayer online battle arena if we get serious about this, sees teams of deities face off against one another in a number of different battle modes. The largest of these is the Conquest mode, in which 2 teams of 5 go head-to-head in order to destroy the other's Phoenix, as well as the Titan, a massive warrior who must be defeated in order to win the game. And don't worry if you don't have 4 other friends to play with, like me, because SMITE's matchmaking system will ensure that even the loneliest of players are paired up with others of a similar skill. Players can select from a veritable smorgasbord of different gods, based on real ones of course, from Egyptian to Norse and everything in between, each of which has its own class: assassin, guardian, hunter, mage, or warrior. Despite being free to play and causing a stir amongst the Hindu community for its somewhat sexy depictions of the faith's gods, SMITE is held quite favourably among MOBA fans, achieving a respectable 83 out of 100 on Metacritic. So despite not being big fans of the genre ourselves, for that reason we're happy to recommend that you go ahead and don't spend a single penny on it. Number 6. Team Fortress 2. Let's be honest, we couldn't bring you a list of the very best free-to-play games without including TF2. Originally released back in 2007 as part of the Orange Box, a fantastic bundle of games that also included Half-Life 2 and Portal, Team Fortress 2 has since been released on Steam as a free-to-play title in its own right. If you have the dollary dues, I highly recommend you pick up the Orange Box because frankly it's a masterpiece and worth every penny, but if you're a bit strapped for cash, TF2 will still see you right. A multiplayer first-person shooter, Team Fortress 2 has, well, 2 teams go head-to-head in combat-based objectives. There are a plethora of different game modes to explore, including Capture the Flag, King of the Hill, and Payload, and players can choose from several different characters to play as, each with their own unique strengths, weaknesses, weapons, and more importantly, personalities. In order to support the free-to-play model, TF2 does of course come with some microtransactions. However, these can only buy players in-game cosmetic items, so there's no competitive edge to be had from putting real-world money into the game. You just look that little bit more swanky, that's all. Number 5. Hearthstone. If you're keen on getting into the fun and fantasy of World of Warcraft, but just can't bring yourself to spend a tenner a month to be immersed in the full Azeroth experience, then you might have a smashing old time playing Hearthstone instead. Admittedly, the gameplay is somewhat different, with World of Warcraft being an MMORPG and Hearthstone being a collectible card game. However, there is plenty of fun to be had with the latter, albeit fun of a slightly different variety, admittedly. Players collect different decks of cards and use them against their opponents from around the world, with the chief objective being to reduce your adversary's health to 0. Players can choose from one of 10 different classes, with each having their own unique cards and hero abilities. Unlike other card games of a similar ilk, looking at you, Magic the Gathering, Hearthstone was designed in such a way to speed up each player's turn, meaning that the wonderful lore and gameplay can be enjoyed without dragging out the overall timescales of the game. Because let's face it, we're adults, we're busy filling out our taxes and dropping our kids off at the pool, in a literal sense, thank you very much, and we can't spend all of our time on digital card games. I might treat myself to an expansion pack though, and in this job, I can claim the tax back on it. Oh yeah! Number 4. Let It Die. You'd be forgiven for not being overly familiar with Let It Die, it being an indie RPG that has flown somewhat under the radar since its release in 2016. But what we here at TripleJump Towers won't forgive you for is not seeking out this title once we've told you about it, okay? Take some notes. You play as a character fighting their way up a treacherous tower, gathering weapons and stumbling across various small creatures and mushrooms to munch upon to stave off your inevitable demise. Oh, and also, you're aided by a sunglasses-wearing Grim Reaper on a skateboard. That's right, you're assisted by actual Death himself, doing kickflips and ollies like some sort of scythe-wielding Tony Hawk. Lord have mercy, we are not prepared for this much awesomeness. As if that weren't cool enough, if you die, and you will, your death data is uploaded to the interwebs and circulated amongst other players, meaning that you will appear as a formidable opponent in other people's games. Unfortunately, although available on both PS4 and PC, the free version of the game is only available on Windows. So unless you've got a sweet non-console setup, you won't really be able to reap the freebie benefits. Get it? You know, like the Grim Reaper. Number 3. Killer Instinct. If you're short on cash and are in the mood for a bit of a brawl, you have one of two options. You can make friends with some Millwall fans and head down to your local boozer on a Saturday afternoon, or you could just download Killer Instinct. I can tell you right now though that only one of these options will result in you crying in A&E as some poor nurse puts an ice pack on your black eye. If you're a connoisseur of fighting games, the mechanics of 2013's Killer Instinct reboot won't be unfamiliar to you. Pick from a roster of fantastical characters and head into the arena to fight your way through hordes of opponents by racking up combos. Did I do it right? Once again, there are of course elements of the game that require a purchase in order to unlock certain aspects, but you can still have plenty of fun without spending any dollar. Although not necessarily a groundbreaking title, Killer Instinct will certainly scratch that fighting itch, and for free. We don't want to compare it directly to the likes of Mortal Kombat or Tekken, but if you're not fussed by the differences, then Killer Instinct will definitely prevent you from feeling like you're missing out on the spine-tearing action. Wonderful. Number 2. Warframe. There are times in life when you need a game that gives you a little bit of everything. If you're looking for a title that brings you elements of action, RPG, and stealth, and one that's set in the future but somehow also involves ancient warriors, and something that you don't have to spend a penny on, though you can if you'd like, then Warframe is probably the game for you. I don't think there are any others out there that tick all of those boxes. Playable on Windows, PS4, Xbox One and Switch, and coming soon to PS5 and Xbox Series X, Warframe sets players off on missions across space, allowing them to gain experience and unlock new equipment. Take on the missions by yourself, buddy up with some chums for some excellent PvE, or even head over to the Conclave for a bit of PvP action. Unlike a lot of free-to-play titles, everything within the game can be earned by grinding, rather than players having to pay to unlock. Of course, you can pay to unlock certain features more quickly and easily, but it isn't a requirement in order to enjoy the game in its entirety, which is really nice if, like me, you've blown your whole paycheck on crazy stuff like rent and food. Boring. And number 1, Doki Doki Literature Club. It's kind of difficult to talk about Doki Doki Literature Club without spoiling things, but we'll do our very best, because I cannot overstate how worthy of your time this game is. Appearing at first glance to be little more than another Japanese dating simulator, Doki Doki Literature Club subverts expectations at every turn, delivering an insane narrative that absolutely no one saw coming. You play as a nameless protagonist, invited to join your high school's book club by your childhood sweetheart. Ah, it all sounds very lovely, doesn't it? You go along, of course, taking part in the day-to-day goings-on of the literature club, making friends with other members, and even sharing your own poetry, you creative scamp you. But it's about this point where the tale takes a turn for the absolute bonkers, although I refuse to share any more details lest I ruin the surprise. If you've played Doki Doki Literature Club, you probably understand my frustration in trying to recommend the game without saying all that much about it. But what I will say is that it's completely free. We talked more about it in our list of games that shattered the fourth wall, and if you play it, you're in for one hell of a ride. And that's our list, but what other excellent free-to-play games did we miss? Sound off about them in the comments down below. You can follow myself and TripleJump on Twitter here, and if you want to support the things you enjoy, then check out the rewards on our Patreon. Finally, don't forget to like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. I've been Peter from TripleJump, and thanks for watching.